I'm going to check my phone quick just to see if anybody had any problems. All right, well, we'll get started and maybe the other folks will join us shortly. So we're working on Chakra 2 tonight in our Chakra in Pajamas series. I'm hoping that eventually we'll get to all of them. So second chakra has a lot to do with the area of our pelvis and our hips. So I'm just going to go through a few things on the sheet before we get started with our practice while we're waiting for everybody. So it's located 4 finger widths below our navel and kind of entails our reproductive pelvic area, our bladder and our kidneys, our circulatory system, the hips, inner thighs, the knees, and our joints. It's associated with the color orange in the kind of modern interpretation of the chakras. They sort of follow the colors of the rainbow. So last time way back, we did the root chakra, and that was color red. And then we move our way up for the pelvic areas associated with orange. Oh, here comes Holly. Hello. Welcome. So, and then it's also associated with the moon, the second chakra, because the second chakra is related to the water element in our bodies. So last time we talked about the earth chakra. So it was all about grounding and connecting to the earth. Second chakra is the water element. And as you go up the system of the chakras from the ground on up, the elements get lighter. So we have earth, and then we have water, and then fire, and then it goes on air, space. So it gets more sort of ethereal as you work your way up the chakra system. So this one's associated with the element of water and all the things that water entails as it relates to our body and even our emotions, right? So we think about water. If we have not enough of it, things are going to be very dry. We're not going to be very fluid in our bodies. We're going to feel very stiff, very stuck. And then if we've got too much water, we might be like really overly emotional. We just might feel really unstable in our minds, in our bodies. So I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about what the deficiencies and the excesses in this chakra might look like for you. So if it's balanced, we're going to be more trusting, expressive, creative. We're going to be attuned to our feelings, very adaptable, right? So water is very adaptable. It can go from, this liquid state, it can be frozen, it could be, gaseous, snow, things like that. So very adaptable if we're balanced in this chakra. Kind of in touch with our intuition, graceful in our movement patterns, having emotional intelligence. Healthy boundaries is another one. So if we're deficient in this one, we might not have good boundaries. If it's too much, we've got too much water element, too much energy in our second chakra, we're going to have that emotional imbalance, also related to things like sexual addictions, being manipulative, overly sensitive, dramatic, and theatrical. We're always kind of seeking pleasure, seeking attention even. So like little kids, sometimes they're like, they have the crocodile tears, they call it. It's like, oh, poor me, poor me. So we can carry those things on to adulthood as well if we've got excessive energy in our second chakra. If it's deficient, so that would be the opposite, then we have things like stagnant energy. We are not going with the flow in life. We can't enjoy pleasure. We might have a lot of creative blocks. So our creative juices are kind of dried up. We might have stiffness, repressed emotions, like we're not expressing them in a healthy way. Fear of intimacy, feeling hopeless, and very identified with our external appearance if we're not balanced in this chakra. So it's very much concerned with intimacy, emotions, pleasure, nurturing, movement, creativity, going with the flow, also associated with things like shame and inadequacy. So that's kind of, you can think about that in your own life, like in what ways might I be excessive or deficient in my second chakra? Or maybe I'm very balanced in that area. So the things that we might do in yoga would be things that would open up the hips and create fluidity in our hips. Also, our lower back and our sacrum is very much associated with this chakra because our sacrum is the back of the pelvis, and the whole pelvic girdle is associated with the second chakra. All right, so we're gonna start out with some nice fluid somatic work. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time doing some somatics tonight, and then we're gonna do restorative yoga postures that will open up the hips as well. So make sure you have a couple of bed pillows. I think everyone got the email, a couple of blankets. If you have yoga blocks, they might be useful to kind of prop things up. And we're going to get started in a moment. So is there any comments or questions or thoughts that came up when I was going through some of that stuff about the second chakra? Anything like ring a bell or like, oh, that's me? Anything you wish to share with us? No? Everybody's going to be quiet tonight? Okay.
I was going to say sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You can go through different phases of your life and find that, I don't think we're limited to one sort of approach. And so sometimes we might find that we have too much of the water element, or another time, not enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always in fluctuation.
I was reading over your questions and I thought, oh yeah, they're very thought-provoking. In terms of, how do you react to change, and what is your relationship with your body like? And I think that goes through different, times in our life when we can adapt more readily, and other times we might feel resistant or critical of ourselves. So I don't know, I thought it was very, very insightful questions for tonight.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. So absolutely. So everything with the chakras is always in flux. So like I go for different kinds of energy work sometimes, and they use a pendulum. So if you've ever gone to have your chakras balanced or something like that, they'll put a pendulum over the different centers of the body. And depending on how it spins and things like that, they can determine how balanced you are in this area of your body. And then they do their thing, they do the energy work, and then they come back and check it again. And then they're like, oh, now we're good. Now it's spinning the right way. We're not, because sometimes they'll hold it over and it could be like dead, or it could just be spinning the wrong way, things like that. So, and each time I go, it's different. One time maybe my throat chakra is not balanced, or another time it might be my second chakra. So it's different every time. And certainly throughout our lives, depending on what's going on, I think particularly this year, has been really challenging for everybody. And that can really affect our chakras, particularly the first and second chakras, because they're associated more with the grounding and things like that, and even associated with fear. Second chakra and first chakra are both associated with fear. So if we don't feel grounded, we don't feel like, we've got the earth beneath us, and we have excessive water element, it's just like a river rushing through us. We just feel like we just can't get our footing, and we just might be really emotional. And the second chakra is also related to our adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands and our kidneys both are associated with fear. So our adrenals sit right on top of the kidneys. And so in Chinese medicine, we talk about that a lot, how kidney is associated with water element and associated with fear. So if we're fearful, we might not be very adaptable. We might not be very fluid in our lives if we've got a lot of fear. So we might be like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't want to go out there. I don't want to do anything because it's scary out there. And then we feel very stagnant and very stuck. So we can think about, you know, a pool of water. If it's stagnant, it festers, it's sickness causing, we can't drink it, gets insects infested in it. So we don't want our water element to be stagnant in our bodies. So the somatic work we're going to start with is going to help us create some nice fluidity in the area of our hips. So I'm going to ask you to have a blanket down on your mat because that'll help us with the somatic stuff that we're going to do. And we might spend, you know, 20 minutes or a little more on the somatics, and then we'll move into some other work. All right. You're going to start on your back, and you don't need anything else other than a blanket down initially. If you need a little something under your head, that would be fine. And I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody in a moment unless there's any last questions or comments. And I'll meet you on your back. All right. Everybody's muted. So go ahead and come onto your back. And we're going to take a couple moments just to settle and drop into the ground. So I'll give you guys a moment to settle in. We're going to take these first couple of moments to think about letting go. So that's one of the things associated with this chakra is the idea of letting go. In order to be really buoyant, if we were floating in a pool of water, in order to have that sensation of the water holding us and being able to float, we have to stop the struggle, right? So if we're fighting it, we're just kind of kicking around, we're not going to have that sensation of being buoyant, being held up, and floating. So see if you can really let go in your tissues, in your body, even in your mind, and allow yourself to really have a sense of the fluid in the body, the water content. Water energy sinks into the ground. It's very settling. So if we pour water, it's not going to go upward ever. It's going to go down and it's going to disperse. So have a sense of your body dropping down and dispersing like a puddle of water. So let go of all effort in your body. When our water element is functioning well, we have more confidence, less fear, able to move forward in life. Our bodies are 80% water, approximately, a little less as we age, a little more as we are children. Think about the blood, the lymph, our plasma, synovial fluid, tears, sweat. Everything in our body is wet, fluid, receptive. And our pelvic bowl is the receptacle for the watery contents of our being. So it holds everything in like a container for your organ body. So go ahead and take about 3 more soft breaths here and direct the breath to that area below your navel to that second chakra area. We get that breath to go deeper down into the lower abdomen. It's very nourishing, very calming. Finish out this last breath, and then we're going to start some movement. Go ahead and take a full body stretch on your next inhalation. And as you exhale, we're going to bring both of your knees into your chest. Give them a squeeze. And then we're going to separate the knees and reach down, hold your ankles. So we're kind of like in a bound angle on your back here. The feet are going to be maybe touching a little bit, maybe separate. They don't have to be together. And then just take a couple of breaths here. And we're going to continue to bring that breath into the area below the navel. Feel like that breath is filling up into the area below the navel and also into the lower back and the sacrum. Go ahead, take 2 more breaths. Now on your next inhalation, keep holding the ankles and bring the feet up toward the ceiling like happy baby. And as you exhale, bring the feet back down. And just do that a few more times. Inhale, feet up. Exhale, feet down. We're just going to alternate between happy baby and the bound angle position a few times. And just making note of how things are feeling in the area of your hips, your inner thighs, pelvic bowl. So just have an awareness of sensations in this area of the body tonight. Good. And now we're going to let those feet, let go of the ankles, let the feet drop down. And then we're in bound angle with the feet on the ground. Knees are still apart. Again, have a few breaths into that lower belly region. You might even place your hands below your navel and see if you can feel the breath kind of lifting up into your hands. Let the belly be really soft. Don't suck anything in. Let the belly rise and fall with your breath. We can even imagine the breath like a water tide going in and going out. And then from here, go ahead and bring your knees up, feet flat. And we're going to slide the legs out long again onto the blanket. Bring your awareness to just your right leg. And we're going to slide the right leg out to the side like bound angle, as if we're maybe doing tree pose on our back. And then slide it straight out again. And let's do that about 3 more times on the right side. Slide your right knee to the side and then release. 2 more rounds. One more. Guys, I forgot to remind you, if you wanted to play your music, you can certainly start that at any time. Now we're going to do the other leg. So left knee slides out to the side and extend. We're going to do that a few more rounds. And I'd like you to make sure every movement tonight is slow motion. So don't rush it. And every movement is very fluid. So don't make any jerky, quick, rapid movements. We want to feel a sense of the body being like water tonight. Both legs out straight. And now we're going to be like a frog swimming. We're going to slide both knees out to the side and then straighten those legs. And do that a few more rounds. Slide both knees out to the side as far up as you like and slide back out. 3 more times. Maybe feeling how fluid the hips feel here. Is there creaking, cracking in your joints? So just being aware of these things. All right, last round. And now we're going to bring those knees up, feet flat. And repeat. Legs out. Slide out to the side. Bring the knees up and slide them out. Keep going, and you might close your eyes and just really feel and sense into this movement in your hips. 2 more cycles like that. And last one. Okay, from here, bring your feet flat, knees bent, and we're gonna have our arms at our sides. We're gonna do a somatic movement called the flower. And you almost feel like your body is kind of blossoming in this movement pattern. We're gonna work in stages, and then we'll put it all together. So first thing, I'd like you to kind of roll your arms open so that you start to roll your pinky fingers toward the floor and let your back arch away from the ground. And then we're going to roll the arm bones forward and in toward the body until your shoulders lift and you round your back into the ground. So it's almost like a cat-cow with an arm roll. Roll your arms open, keep rolling them until your shoulder blades slide down and arch your back. And then roll your arm bones in, let your spine round, your chin might drop back, tip your tailbone up. And one more time. Inhale, open the arms, arch the back. Exhale, roll the arms in, contract the front of the chest. All right, pause for a moment. So that's part 1 of this movement. Part 2 is something we've kind of already done. So your knees are going to drop open as you inhale. And as you exhale, you're going to bring the knees in and squeeze them together this time. Inhale, knees apart. Now arch your back as the knees drop apart. And then squeeze in and tip your tailbone up. So it's that rounding. Inhale, knees open, arch your back. Exhale, come up, round your back. So you're tipping your tailbone upward so you feel your lower back press. Now at the arms, knees open. Inhale, roll the arms back and arch your back. Exhale, roll the arms in towards your body, round the shoulders, squeeze the legs, and then repeat. Inhale, open, arch, exhale, roll in, squeeze the front of the chest. 2 more cycles. Inhale, open, arch, exhale, rounding in. One more time. And then relax. And let's bring our knees into the chest. We're going to make circles with the knees, just massaging out the lower back. And then reverse, go the other way. And bring those knees back in, give them a good squeeze. Set your feet down on the ground, and we're going to flip over onto the belly. So go ahead and first just let your forehead rest down. This is called crocodile posture, and we're going to stay here for a few moments. And once again, be like that drop of water that descends and disperses into the ground. Feel the fluid nature of your body. So all the fluid is pulling toward the front body now, whereas when we're on our back, it pulls toward the back body. Send your breath below your navel and into your lower back. Let's take about 3 more breaths here. And then from here, after that 3rd breath, slide your right knee out to the side. And just pause there for a moment. See how that feels. If you need to, you can put a blanket or something under your knee if you're on a hard surface. And then we're going to gently press that leg down into the ground. And as you press it down, you might notice a little more activation of certain muscles. You might feel a little inner thigh stretch. You might feel your outer hip muscles. And then relax it. We're going to do 2 more times. Press the leg down into the ground. Again, making sure you have support if you need it. And then relax. Let's do that 1 more time. Press. And release. Slide that leg back. And then other side. Slide your left knee out to the side. And we're going to press the leg into the ground. And release. Do that 2 more rounds. Notice what muscles are contracting or stretching. And release. And 1 more time. Good, and then slide that leg back out to the side. Then back to the right leg, out to the side, and then stretch it back. Left leg out to the side, and stretch it back. 1 more time each side. Slide it up and down. 1 more time. Good. Okay, pause here. And see if you could turn your right leg out so that your toes point out to the side. So we get a little external rotation in that leg. If it's uncomfortable, go back to neutral. So we're just going to hold that for about 3 breaths. Because we're going to work on a pose called frog. And in frog pose, the feet turn out. Go ahead and release, and then turn your other leg out to the side. So your toes point out and hold it for a few breaths. And then release and bring that leg back. From here, slide your hands back, and we're going to press up into tabletop pose. Once you're in your table, we're going to make circles with the hips. So just circle around. Again, feeling the fluidity in the hip joints. And then go the other way. By the way, those of you who are playing the music, I just realized that one of the songs got pretty fast, and I didn't realize it because in the beginning it was really soft. And I must have just like not heard that whole one before. So feel free to skip that song if you get to the point where it's a faster song. Doesn't really go with our sequence tonight. Okay, come back to the center and rock your hips from right to left. And just go side to side like you're kind of wagging your tail. And have a sense of how your leg bones glide in the hip sockets. So if we're not doing regular practices like a yoga practice, we might find that the joints are a little stickier. They're not fluid. So second chakra very much relates to our joints because we need that synovial fluid in the joints to help have smooth, graceful movement. Otherwise, we're going to be very stiff in our movements. Now, bring your knees apart, big toes touch. Let's move back into a child's pose. And you could put your hands under your forehead or let your arms stretch out in front of you. So we're going to hold for about 3 breaths, breathing into that space below your navel, breathing into your lower back. Let's take 3 more breaths in your child's pose. And after your 3rd breath, I'm going to have you slowly start to come up. And we're going to set up for a supported posture. So we'll come back to a little bit more somatic in a moment, but this is going to be the downward facing frog pose. So I'm going to put 2 pillows in front of me, or if you have a yoga bolster, use your bolster. So I'm just going to show with pillows since not everyone has the bolsters. And we're going to put our torso onto these 2 pillows. And then we're going to slide one knee out to the side and try to turn your foot so your foot points out toward the side. So this is a half frog, and you can hug your pillows or your bolster with your arms. So let's start with just a half frog for about a minute. We're going to do the other leg for about a minute. And then we're going to try to do both legs in the frog position. So you could turn your head to one side. If it's uncomfortable in any way, you are welcome to just put your legs back in neutral. And let your body sink like that drop of water into your props. Really get heavy. Let go of your efforts. Really soften in through the shoulders and through the belly and through your face. Also remember, you can always put extra blankets underneath your knee if you are on a harder surface. So I'm on a carpet, so it's okay, but if you have like a tile floor, you want to make sure you're comfortable and cozy. Okay, that was our minute, so let's do the other leg. Slide that leg back, and then other leg out to the side. Turn your toes out like a frog foot, and you might turn your head to the other side. Just drop into those props. Send your breath down low into your low belly, lower back. Couple more breaths here on this side. Now it's pretty mild to do one leg at a time, half frog. When we do the full pose, it can be a little bit of a stretch for the inner thighs. So I'm going to give you the option of taking a supported child's pose if the frog is not comfortable for you. So slide that leg back. Pause for a moment with both legs behind you. Now another thing that might be helpful, if you know that your hips are pretty tight, you could put another pillow on top or like a blanket or two. So I'm adding a blanket if you feel like you might need it. Those of you who have a bolster might be a little better off because the pillows are more squishy. So now we're gonna come into it and try to bring both legs out. So one leg out, toes point out, slide your other leg out, toes point out. And if this is a lot, pull those pillows in closer and put yourself up higher. So then your belly comes on to the pillows. If again, this is all too much, you're gonna just do child's pose. So big toes together, and then you can do it that way, okay? So those of you who can do the frog, we're gonna hold it for about 2 minutes in the frog position. So make any adjustments to make sure that you feel comfortable. Try to breathe through it. And let go of tension. In this position, it's a little accessible to kind of bring some breath into your pelvic floor. So as you inhale, imagine the breath going all the way down to your pelvic floor. And imagine it kind of opening like a flower, like we did that flower pose. And then as you exhale, just relax and soften. That was your first minute. We're going to do 1 more minute here if you can. Head could be turned, or you could stack your arms and rest your head on your arms. And you get a sense of the breath moving all the way down to the pelvic floor. So we also get, deficient or excessive energy in pelvic floor. We could have tightness there. We could have weakness, leading to things like incontinence. So breathing into the pelvic floor is really beneficial especially for us as women. It's also beneficial for men. 1 more breath. And then after that breath, slide your hands back, try to bring your toes together and carefully bring yourself back up. All right, I know that was an intense one. We're gonna come up into a seated position from here. So feel free, if you wish, to sit up onto a pillow or a folded blanket. Sometimes seated positions can be challenging on our hips if we're not used to sitting on the ground. So sit up a little taller if you have any strain in your knees or your hips or your lower back. And we're going to just try to sit up nice and tall for a moment. If it's comfortable for you, close your eyes or find a soft easing point. Come to that breath that's low into your belly. Now I'd like you to let your tongue rest in the bottom of your mouth, away from your back teeth, or I'm sorry, your bottom teeth. So let your tongue rest away from the back of your bottom teeth. See if you can get your tongue in the bottom of your mouth where it's not touching your teeth. Breathing into the belly, and you might see if you can let that tongue get very relaxed. When the tongue relaxes in the mouth, it helps us shift into a more relaxed state. You might notice increased salivation in the bottom of your mouth. So that's that water element. That increased salivation is a sign of our body shifting into parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest branch of our nervous system. There's a connection of fascia from our tongue and our throat all the way down to our pelvic floor. So sometimes when we have tightness in our jaw, our neck, it's also found in the pelvic floor. So let's take 3 more breaths here, just letting the tongue be very soft and relaxed in your mouth. Let it rest in that little pool of moisture and let it be very still. Okay, so from here, we're going to go ahead and put our hands in front of us onto the ground. And then we're going to take a gentle sway from right to left. And as you sway from right to left, start to walk your hands out a little bit more and a little bit more until you feel like you can't really go much farther. And then we're going to pause. So pause here in the center now. And we're going to let the breath be like a wave. So as you inhale, come up on your fingertips. Lift your chest, lift your chin, lift your gaze. And as you exhale, let the chest drop first, then your chin, then your forehead, then the crown of the head. And then let's do that 2 more rounds. Inhale, lift up, let the breath be like a wave, chin lifts. Exhale, chest, then chin, then head, releasing. 1 more round, let the breath be like a wave. And then we're going to stay in that forward fold for a few breaths. So wherever you are, you don't have to be as deep as I'm going. Wherever you are landing is perfectly fine. Send that breath into the lower belly, lower back. So oftentimes our breath is more up in our chest. I talk about this a lot, which really gives us more feelings of stress and fight, flight. When we send that breath lower into the body, it has more of a calming, grounding effect. Let's take 1 more breath cycle where you are. And then we'll slowly walk it back up. And we're just going to switch our legs. So put the opposite leg in the front. And we'll repeat that sequence again. So we're going to inhale, and as you exhale, put your hands down on the ground. Take a gentle sway from side to side. This swaying, this rocking kind of movement is also very soothing. Once you feel like you can't walk it out any amount farther, Pause. And then 3 rounds of wave breath. Inhale, lift up, chin lifts. Exhale, chest first, then chin, then forehead, then crown. 2 more rounds, and let your exhales be really soft, complete. Maybe draw out those exhales a little bit longer. After your 3rd round, go ahead and stay down in the forward fold for a few extra breath cycles. And just really surrender your efforts. Send the breath into the lower belly and the lower back. Returning again and again to that soft, relaxed tongue in your mouth. And even allow your eyes to really soften. One more breath cycle here. And when you're ready, really slow motion, start to come up. Remember, no jarring, quick movements. Take your time. When you get up to vertical, go ahead and pause. Okay, from here, we're going to take the legs out into a straddle position, wide. So we're again opening up that inner thigh area, opening up the pelvic floor area. Try to be on the very tops of your sit bones, and we're going to point the toes up toward the ceiling. Now, if this is hard for you, you can stick some blankets or pillows underneath your knees so they're a little bent, and that sometimes will alleviate some of the tension in our hips and our hamstrings. Otherwise, you can let those legs stay down. We're going to bring the hands in front of us and do very similar to what we just did. So go ahead and sway side to side. So sometimes if we try to just kind of plop ourselves right into that forward fold, it's a bit shocking to the tissues. So if we kind of ease our way into it with this gentle swaying, rocking, it's a little more soft approach to get into that forward fold. And then when you're as far down as you feel like you can go, 3 rounds of your wave breath. So inhale, lift up through your chin. I even come up on my fingertips. And then exhale, soften, round the spine, drop the head. Long exhales, 2 more rounds. Really go slowly and fluidly. 1 more cycle. And then we're going to stay down in the forward fold for a few breaths. Wherever you land is fine. Don't feel like you got to get super low. Optimally being where you feel comfortable without a lot of strain. You don't want to feel like you're forcing. That's another kind of excessive water element signal is forcing. So water can be really forceful or it can be really gentle. Tonight we're going to stay on that gentle side of water element. 2 more breaths into belly and lower back, soft tongue, soft eyes. After that second breath, slowly start to walk yourself up. Take your time and pause at the top. And then we're going to use our hands to lift the knees and slide the legs together. Bring your hands behind you onto the floor, widen your feet, and just windshield wiper your knees side to side. and come back to the center. Take your right leg out straight and drop your left knee out to the side. Now, if that knee is kind of up in the air, give it some support. You could use a folded up blanket or a pillow. Just make sure that it's comfortable and not strained. Okay, now we're gonna bring the hands on the inside of both of the legs. So normally we go toward that straight leg. We're gonna go the inside. And again, just kind of walk those hands out, maybe a little sway side to side. Keep walking those hands out. And then at some point, go ahead and pause for a moment. We're not going to do wave breath every time, but we'll just gently approach it, coming into it. Hold here another breath. Just observe any sensations. And now we're going to walk it over so that one hand is on either side of your leg, the right leg. That's it. Now we'll do the wave. So inhale, lift up. Exhale, slide it forward, round your back. 2 more times. And last round. And now we're going to stay down there for a few breaths. Allow your head to be heavy if that feels okay for you. Let it drop. If you have strain here, slide one hand under the back of your knee, which will create a little micro bend. It'll take some of the strain out of your hamstring. Soft tongue, soft eyes. Breath below the belly, lower back. Let your chin slightly tuck inward rather than jut forward. It'll be a softer sensation in your neck and your spine. Now, when you're ready, slowly starting to walk yourself back up. And pause when you get to the top. We're going to take a little counter twist toward the bent leg side. Inhale, lift up tall. Exhale into the twist. Once you're there, find your breath. All the things we've been talking about. Remember, breath into belly, lower back, soft tongue, soft eyes. Next inhale, unwind it back to the center and both legs out straight. Let's try the other side. Go ahead and pull that knee back. Support it if you like. And we're going to bring the hands on the inside of the legs and gently sway. So when we go directly over that leg, it's a little bit more on the hamstring. So this is a little bit of a gentler approach into that forward fold. All right, eventually we'll just come to stop here. No wave just yet. And then we're going to walk it over and frame that leg with both hands. 3 rounds of wave breath here. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, round forward. 2 more cycles. And last one. We're going to hold it for a few breaths wherever you landed. Let your chin tuck in a little bit so the spine is gently rounding. There's no kink in your neck. Hold for a few moments. So we're getting a lot of hamstring here as well as the hip opener on the right leg. Hamstrings are, kind of part of this second chakra because when the hamstrings are tight, they can affect the positioning of our pelvis. If the hamstrings are really tight, they're going to flatten our lower back, and that's part of this chakra as well. So by keeping our hamstrings supple, strong, and flexible, that's a good support for our pelvis and our lower back. All right, very slowly starting to walk yourself back in. Pause at the top. And then when you're ready, take that counter twist over toward the bent leg side. So we're going to inhale, lift up tall, and exhale into the twist. And then send the breath into low belly, lower back. Find that relaxed tongue in your mouth. Next inhalation, slowly unwind it back to the center, both legs out straight. Okay, finishing with bound angle, soles of the feet together, then we're going to come into some more restorative work. So feet together, knees apart. You can also put blocks or pillows underneath your knees if you feel like you might need it. And first we're going to circle the torso around. And you'll feel like you're rocking from one sit bone to the front of the sit bones, to the other sit bone, to the back. That's it. So just circle around, getting a nice opening through those hips. And then reverse, go the other way. Circular movements are also kind of bringing out creativity in the mind and the body. We think about, when things are very linear, very straight and narrow, they're often not very creative. So a little spiraling, a little circling brings out creativity. And that's also associated with this chakra, our creative juices, right? So when they're dried up, we have lack of that water element. Come back to center now. We might not feel very creative. And of course, we also create life from this chakra as well. Let's bring our hands in front of us, just like we've been doing. And wave it out or sway it out, side to side. Spirals are also said to be feminine. And we look at the yoga philosophies. There's a word called Shakti. And Shakti is a word for all of creation. And it also relates to our life force energy, our Shakti energy. Come to a pause now. 3 wave breaths last time. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, round it in. Chin drops, forehead round. 2 more rounds. And 1 more. And then we hold it down here for a few breaths wherever you land. Let your head get heavy, chin goes in, forehead drops. Now, if anything is too intense, you can always stay in an upright position and hold the bound angle for a few breaths. Second chakra is also associated with Kundalini. If you've ever heard that word in the yoga tradition, Kundalini is said to be a dormant energy that lies at the base of our spine and becomes awakened through our spiritual practices. And that energy moves up through our spine, up through our chakras. 1 more breath. And when you are ready, slowly starting to walk yourself back up. Pause at the top. And then we're going to use our hands, draw our knees up. And then let's windshield wiper one more time. So separate knees and feet and just let all that work go. So we've got about 30 minutes remaining. So we're going to take a couple of restorative postures and then we'll finish up with a guided meditation in our Shavasana. Okay, so we're going to grab either our bolster or our 2 pillows again. And we're going to put them on the mat with some sort of pillow for your head. Because we're going to be reclining back on these pillows or your bolster. So pillow, it could be a folded blanket up here for your head, whatever you have available. And then we're going to need 2 blankets. If you have yoga blankets, great. If not, you can use 2 cushions off your sofa. You could also use 2 more bed pillows. We're going to roll the blankets up if you have them. If you don't, you're just going to use pillows. Okay, so 2 blankets, make them into a roll. I call these the Tootsie Roll size. Sometimes they're longer, then it's like more like a snake, but these are thick ones. So like how it would come off the pile, we're going to roll it up from that short side. And then it's like a little bundle. Okay. So if you don't have that, 2 square pillows would work as well, even 2 yoga blocks. The blankets are a little softer. We don't need them just yet. Or you might. Let's keep them nearby. Okay, so watch for a moment. I'm gonna come to face forward away from the setup. This is gonna go behind my back. And I wanna kind of try to push it down a little bit. So whether you have a bolster or a pillow, push it down and then kind of scoot your tailbone a little forward. Then we're gonna come back. Put the pillow or blanket just under your head. We don't want it under your shoulders. And then we're going to cross the legs like we do when we're seated, like crisscross applesauce, and let the legs drop down. Now, if this is strain on your knees, take those 2 blankets or pillows and put one under each of your knees. So it's optional. Maybe you would like to have a little bit more stretch. But if you want to feel more supported, put the blankets under the knees. We have a very slight back bend here. We also have the openness in our hips and our pelvis. Let your arms drape down wherever they're comfortable or rest them on your belly. We're going to stay here for a few minutes. So I'm going to give us the 3-minute timer, and then we're going to switch the legs after 3 minutes to the other leg in front. So continue to just drop into the props. Be like that drop of water, settling downward, as if your whole body could just seep into cracks in the earth. Send the breath into the lower belly, the lower back. And let your tongue relax away from your bottom teeth into that pool of moisture in the bottom of your mouth. Feel a softening of the corners of your eyes and your forehead. And let the whole back body continue to get heavy. Halfway there. So as you stay here for about 1 more minute, I'm going to give a couple of little questions that are maybe in addition to the ones on your sheet. So the first one is, how much do you need to be in control in your life? And how much can you let things just flow? This is a challenging one because a lot of times, especially if we're in fear, we want to control things. So especially, in the year like we're having now, how much does control come up for you when you perhaps feel like we have less control over what's going on in the world around us? We're almost ready to change sides. Let's take 2 more breaths. And after that second breath, stay as you are. Just switch the leg so the opposite leg is in the front. And again, support if you need support. And then we're staying down there in the same position. We're going to do 3 different leg positions in this pose so that we can stay still longer. So the longer we stay still in a pose we're not moving our upper body very much, the deeper we can drop into relaxation. So every time we move a little bit, we disturb that relaxation response. So try to let yourself be as still as you can be. Only the movement of the belly rising and falling with your breath. Maybe sensing the beating of your heart. Okay, so another question that we can consider for this chakra is, what is a creative life for me today? What is singing and waiting inside of me that wants to be shared with the world? And what are your innate talents? And how do you define creativity for yourself? So what do you want to bring into fruition? The act of manifestation is related to these first and second chakras, right? So when we bring life into this world, it happens through that first and second chakra. But also, if we think about how do we want to manifest something in our lives, that is a creative process. First, we have to think of the idea, and then we have to figure out how, what steps we have to take to help make that happen. So every creative project in our lives can be like a birth process, right? We give birth to that creative idea, something that had never existed before, and now it does. Whether it's a piece of writing that you've done, or a cake that you baked, or a painting that you made, or a piece of music that you created. So many different ways that we can be creative. Almost done with this second position. Let's take 2 more full breaths. Okay, after your second breath, we're going to now put the feet together into our bound angle position that we've done a lot of today. So again, knees are apart, feet together. Support the knees with your blankets or pillows. Make sure your tailbone feels lengthened out from under you so you're not arching your back too much. And then that soft breath into the belly and the pelvic floor. Can you get a sense of that breath moving below your navel? And as you inhale, feel that kind of flowering of the pelvic floor. And as you exhale, belly falls, pelvic floor softens. Notice if your tongue is still relaxed, your eyes are still soft, and we're going to stay with it for our 3 minutes. So this chakra is considered to be the seat of our primal creative force. Associated with our sacrum, hips, reproductive organs, as I've talked about. When this chakra is open, we are fluid and open to change, adaptable. We become able to freely and authentically get in touch with the subtle creative forces that move us into deeper connection with ourselves. When the second chakra is healthy, we are going with the flow. So all of these nice fluid movements that we did in the beginning of practice just help to kind of awaken that innate creativity, fluidity within us. Now just settling into stillness, settling into the breath. That we can allow for this time, for this chakra to feel balanced, open, neither excessive or deficient. Last 2 breaths. And then after that second breath, we're going to finish by just taking both legs out straight. And you could put one of those rolled blankets under the backs of each knee, if you like. And we'll take the last 3 minutes with the legs straight, just to neutralize after all that hip opening. So go ahead and just settle into a couple more minutes here, staying with that soft, soft breath. That soft breath is also very soothing for our nervous system and our adrenal glands. So if our breath is compromised and we're not able to find this very soft, subtle breath, we might always feel like we're kind of jacked up, amped up, ready to fight, flight. But this helps us shift into a more healing state of being when we work with our breath. When these 3 minutes are up, we're about halfway there. We're going to be coming onto our backs for a few final movements. We're going to just finish with a couple more somatic movements, and then we'll take our Shavasana. Let's take a couple more moments here, about 1 more minute. Is there any amount of effort that you could let go of? So a little bit more releasing into the ground. Imagine the face like a drop of water, corners of the mouth soften, corners of the eyes, almost as if that were liquid melting away from center. Skin really soft around your eyes, around your jaw, and still with that relaxed tongue in the mouth. Last 2 breaths. So we spent about 12 minutes or so in a similar position, only changing our legs. So notice how you feel. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and bend the knees again. Roll to your side. Use your hands and slowly bring yourself up. We're going to remove our props for a moment, but I'd like you to keep nearby whatever you might want for your Shavasana. So you might want something from your head or under your knees. But for now, let's come back to having a clear mat for a few more somatic moves. And come down flat onto your back, please. Let's take a full body stretch. We're going to interlace our palms and press the palms toward the wall behind you. And then flex your feet and reach through your heels. Those of you who come to somatic will know this movement. It's called up, slip, down, slip. And it works on creating fluidity in our sacrum and our psoas muscle. So as you take a full body stretch, slide your right leg a little longer than your left leg. And then slide your left leg a little longer than your right leg. And just go side to side, very slowly. And notice the little sensation of the sacrum kind of twisting, your hips shifting up and down, the slight offsetting of your pelvic bones. If we get really stiff and tight in our sacrum, our SI joint, our lower back, this is a fantastic move for creating fluidity there. So it's very subtle. We're not really moving that much, but you'll be able to feel that you're creating more fluidity in all the fascia and the tendons and ligaments and muscles around your sacrum and lower back. And then go ahead and slowly release. So let your arms come down at your side and bend your knees. Take your arms into goalpost position so that your elbows are bent in line with your shoulders. Some gentle pelvic tilts forward and back. So as you inhale, tip your tailbone forward till your lower back arches away from the ground. And as you exhale, flatten your lower back, tip your tailbone up a little bit. The entire time, nothing is actually lifting completely off the ground. The hips are still down. And now continue with this very gentle pelvic tilt forward and back. Again, bringing some fluidity into the area of the sacrum. A lot of us spend a good amount of time sitting, and it puts pressure on the sacrum and lower back. So these kinds of movements are really beneficial. And it helps us to kind of tap into the energy of second chakra. That energy of creativity and pleasure and emotion, water. For many of us, this is a challenging area of the body, especially as women. We might be, could have had trauma associated with it, or, problems, reproductive problems, menstrual problems. So just soothing this pelvic area with these gentle pelvic tilts. Now come back to stillness. Lower back neutral on the ground, not tipped forward or back. And now we're going to go right to left. So bring your awareness to the right half of the back of your pelvis and press it into the ground. And then press the left side into the ground. And go right to left in a gentle rocking motion from one side to the other. Almost feels like you're walking in place. Your knee might shift a little forward, but we're not trying to move the legs too much. Isolated into the back of the pelvis. It's almost time. Two more on each side. And then come back to a pause. Now we'll do the sacrum circles. So you're going to tip your pelvis forward like we did in the beginning there, arching the back. Now over to the right, press down to the top of the sacrum and over to the left. And you're going to try and make that into a smooth circle on your lower back. And just circle the pelvis around, drawing a circle on the sacrum. You might have a sense that the pelvic floor is making a circle. And just let this be really soothing for your lower back. And then at some point, you're going to reverse your circle and go the other direction. Again, legs are moving minimally. Try to isolate into the back of the sacrum. When we have lack of water element, deficient second chakra, we just might feel like we're really stiff in our movements. We're not very fluid in our movements. We don't really like to get out on the dance floor and boogie on down. We don't like to move our hips too much. And we can sometimes have a sense of shame around the area of our hips. So this work helps to free up that stuck energy that really wants to get out, wants to be fluid. Come back to the starting point. Pause for breath. And then let's bring those knees into the chest. Take the knees apart and then circle them around and back to center. So both knees are moving apart from each other and then around to touch in the center. And then reverse that circle as well. Go the other direction. It's almost like you're making a figure 8 or an infinity sign with your knees. 2 more. All right, bring them in one more time for a hug. If you like happy baby again, you can always take a happy baby or just me hug. And when you are ready, let's find Shavasana. So grab anything that you might like to be comfortable. Maybe something from your head. You could use one of your bed pillows underneath your knees. And then maybe some weight across your pelvis. So if you have a couple blankets, fold them up and place them across the pelvis. That little bit of weight is very grounding, reassuring, gives a sense of safety. And that little weight helps the back of the pelvis drop a bit. You could even put 2 blankets on top of each other if you want more weight folded on top of you. You could put your bolster on top of you, sandbags if you have them. And then come to rest completely into your Shavasana. So I'm going to be coming up. I'll give you guys a moment to finish settling. Feel the back of the sacrum resting into the ground. So all that work we did on the sacrum at the very end there is also stimulating for our parasympathetic nervous system, as our parasympathetic nerves are very much in our sacrum and the back of our skull. So when we work with the area of the sacrum, it can be really soothing for our nervous system. So at the back of the pelvis, get heavier and heavier. Let your whole body be like that drop of water, settling, dispersing into the cracks in the ground. Tongue relaxed in your mouth. Soft breath into the belly. Have a sense of being in the flow. Almost like you're in an oarless boat, just kind of drifting with the current. Having faith and trust that you will be taken where you are meant to go. Letting go, letting be. Surrender any grip in your body. Surrender any grip in your mind and in your thoughts. And allow yourself to feel like you're floating in the flow of your life. Breathing in infinite possibility. Breathing out limitation. And allowing the waves of effortless breath, soft breath, to carry you into a more expansive, open state of consciousness. When we tap into flow state, we tap into creativity. Many of us have experienced this when we get involved in a creative project. Time just seems to be different when we're doing something that we find creatively satisfying. We can immerse ourselves in that creativity. So let your whole being be in the flow of life in this moment, the current of life. Let go of control, let go of effort, and simply be. All right, so taking your time now, we're going to start to return to awareness. First, just feel your body on the ground. So kind of re-inhabiting your physical body after maybe getting super relaxed. And then let your breath get a little deeper, just a little bit at a time. Gradually bring in some small movements at first. So again, no quick movements, stay very relaxed. And then as you feel ready to, you might take some bigger movements. Maybe a stretch, hug your knees, and eventually go ahead and come on your side after you finish and pause there. Try not to pop yourself up. So we'll rest on our side for a few breaths, whichever side calls to you. And after a few moments of pause on your side, then use your arms. Bring yourself up, taking your time. We're going to come up to a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you. Sit up tall for a moment. And either close the eyes or soft gazing point. Allow the tongue to once again rest in the pool of moisture in the bottom of your mouth, so that you have a gentle part between your teeth. Lips are soft. And although the spine is tall, supporting you, let the outer body soften over the spine. Imagine the spine like a prop, like a wash prop, holding up a line of laundry. And then the outer body is like the clothing, just draping over that prop of the spine. Soft breath into the belly, into the lower back. Eyes soft, muscles around the eyes soft. And then from here, we'll bring our hands together in front of the heart space. Have an inhale, and as you exhale, bow your head to your heart. Thank you so much, everyone. Namaste. All right, thank you guys. Feel free to unmute if you have any comments, questions. We'll try to do Chakra 3 sometime in a few weeks. How do we do?
Great,
Good.
thank you.
Good, thank you so much, guys. Well, I hope any questions at all about your experience or about second chakra? All right, well, there's more information on that sheet if you want to take a look. I hope you sleep well, and I'll have the next date coming up in the next newsletter. All right.
Thank you, Deanna.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Namaste,
you.
everybody. Thank you. Good to see you, Holly.
Good to see you. It was wonderful. Thank you
I'm glad you enjoyed.
very
Holly's
much.
first PJ yoga with us. Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Good night.